Hi, my name is Isaiah, and today I will be showing you guys how to make your typical everyday enchiladas. First and foremost, I'll kind of go over some of the materials that you're going to have. Obviously, you want your 9 by 13 cake pan, I should say. And then, of course, a couple measuring cups, or I should say a can opener. Obviously, your whisk, your dinner spoon, dinner fork, and a cutting knife. And, of course, you never can forget your typical little pot. Obviously, most of these are personally optional. Of course, like for me, I'm going to be using a fork instead of a whisk probably, just because that's my personal preference. And okay, so now we're going to go over some of the ingredients that we're going to be using today. Of course, you have your good old-fashioned tortillas, corn tortillas. You can always use the flour, which I'm going to be using, or your corn tortilla. You have your onion, which in this case it's a pretty huge onion. We're not going to be using all of that. We have our black olives, our refried beans here, the good old-fashioned enchilada sauce, your cream of chicken, shredded cheese, about 1/3 to half a cup of milk, either skim milk or 2%, it's your personal preference, and of course, my favorite, the chicken chunks. So first and foremost, what we're going to start off with is we're going to cut up 1/3 of a cup of onions. Okay, so we're going to push that kind of aside right there. And now that we have the onions cut up, we're going to actually construct our actual sauce. So what we're going to do is you're going to take the cream of chicken, the enchilada sauce, and we're going to, and the milk of course, and we're going to pry these open here. Hopefully my can opener doesn't break on me. I'm going to turn the oven or the stove on to about no higher than medium or so, just because obviously while it's cooking we're going to be kind of composing the tortillas and whatnot. And you obviously don't want it to overboil and whatnot, because that, well, let's just say it's not a happy look. So, of course, we're going to put the milk in first, or the 1/3 of a cup of milk, and then in this case we could put in the cream of chicken. It's pretty thick, but that's okay. That's perfectly fine, because while it's boiling, it's obviously going to kind of thin it out a little bit and whatnot. So that's okay. And of course, you want to put the whole can in here, of course. And then one key note about the enchilada sauce is you don't necessarily want to put the entire can of enchilada sauce in. Usually, me personally, I'll put in about 3/4 or so of the enchilada sauce. Just because you don't want too hard of a kick in the enchilada sauce, but of course you do want it to obviously taste like enchiladas. And of course just stir it up a little bit, get it all to mix well together and whatnot. And like I said, it kind of seems pretty thick at first, but of course over time and while it boils, it's going to obviously thin out a little bit and whatnot for you. Or the hotter sauce, and of course now you can pour in the onions, or the 1/3 cup of onions. Obviously stir those in there, and we're gonna let this and we're gonna obviously let this boil and whatnot for about, I'd say 5 to 10 minutes. Once it obviously gets to a nice boil, you don't want to obviously overboil it, because then obviously you're still gonna put it in the oven. Alright, now we're gonna just let that sit for a little bit. Now to the actual magic here. The actual construction of the masterpiece itself. Once I, of course, open this up. Alright, now what I'm going to actually use here, I'm actually going to use the back hands, or the back side, or, well, I'll first use the first side of the spoon here. Now, one good scoop should suffice, actually, because you don't want too much. And then you just use the back side of it just to spread it around. It's not really rocket science, of course. Okay, now once you've successfully spread it, obviously, somewhat like this, it doesn't have to be too fancy. Once you spread it around and whatnot, we're going to get a couple good old-fashioned black olives on here. Now, in terms of black olives, you don't necessarily need too much on each tortilla. I'd say a good handful or so should be suffice. Obviously, you want to empty it out and whatnot. And obviously, you don't want to cut yourself while doing it. Kind of just sprinkle them around and whatnot, accordingly, of course. Okay, now once you've obviously spread around your good old-fashioned black olives, what we're going to do is add the cheese. Now I'd say about 1/3 of a cup or so per enchilada, or per taco or tortilla, I should say. You don't want to obviously over cheese it up. I mean, unless you're a cheese fanatic, then by all means, do what your heart desires. And then after doing that, or after obviously spreading it accordingly, you want to add the best ingredient of all, a couple of chicken chunks or so. You don't want to obviously over chicken it up and whatnot. Some of these are really huge. You can always kind of cut them into smaller pieces. And then now this is where the real magic happens. We're going to move this over here real quick, and I'll kind of show you guys how to roll this up. Now obviously you use both of your thumbs and index finger, kind of just roll it up like in a cylindrical kind of shape, if anything, and just proceed to roll it, and you get your first enchilada. And then when you get your first enchilada, of course, you want to place, I'll move this over here so you guys can kind of see it better. You want to place this flap on bottom so that it doesn't unroll while it's cooking or while you put it in the pan and whatnot. And that's how you get your first enchilada. And then obviously you just repeat those steps and obviously fill up the rest of the pan. Okay, well now that we've completely filled the entire pan of enchiladas, before putting the sauce and the cheese and the olives on top, we're going to actually use the backhand of the spoon to kind of push these edges down. And the purpose of this is just to kind of help keep obviously all the ingredients inside, keep them from all falling out while it's cooking and whatnot. So you can do that. And even though if they kind of push back up, that's obviously got the actual enchilada sauce inside. You can garnish it with fruit on top. And you want to use about approximately 1/4 of a cup of cheese per enchilada and whatnot. You don't want to over cheese it up. I mean, if you want, it's obviously up to you, but me personally, I don't want to over cheese it up. Okay, and before putting it in, I'll use this garnish it a little bit with some more olives on top just to make it kind of look a little bit prettier. And you can always kind of use, like green olives and whatnot, or other types of garnishes like tomatoes and whatnot on top. And so I'm going to use a little bit of olives and whatnot. Okay, now that we've garnished it up, you want to turn it to about 350 degrees and whatnot, and it's in the oven for about 20 minutes or until it's well cooked or until it's oiled and all the flavors melted, and voila. Alrighty, well now that the timer it's been about 20 minutes or so, we can take this puppy out of the oven. Oh, obviously you don't want to forget to turn the oven off. And
this is where the magic happens. And now you have yourself a full course meal in less than 30 minutes. Bon appetit. Thank you for your time, and obviously I hope you guys use this as a well constructed tool and obviously means of making your own enchiladas.